Welcome to Cut the Crop, keeping you in the know about everything you grow. Researchers, growers and other interesting folk delivering insights and information on topics ranging from agronomy to profitability. Brought to you by the Foundation for Arable Research.
Hello and welcome. My name's Alison Stewart and I'm your host of this session of Cut the Crop. Now, if you haven't been living under a bush for the last year, you will know all about FAR's Growers Leading Change initiative. And this is all about growers getting together in the regions to focus on topics that are of interest to them. And we facilitate those groups and provide expertise and support. And today we have a member of one of those grower groups, Marton farmer, David Lee Jones. Welcome, David. How are you today?
Oh, very good, Alison. Thank you for inviting me to speak.
Yep, no problem at all. So, David, maybe just start off with just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the grower group that you're involved in.
Well, we are about a quarter of an hour's drive east of the Marton township on the banks of the Rangitikei River, and we are a reasonably small 200 hectare mixed cropping and livestock. So about half of our income comes from finishing cattle and sheep, and roughly half from crop sales. And so that's me.
So tell us a little bit about this group that you're a member of, like who else is in the group and what is it that you're trying to achieve from this grower group?
Well, I've been interested in either min-till or direct drilling, no-tilling for quite a considerable period, and we've mucked around with trying to make it work, mainly for forage crops and establishing grass and crops post the main cash crop during the season. And having talked to a few of my compatriots in the area, I said, wouldn't it be good if we could actually do something more to try and get better at it and be able to use those options more for our main crops? And the grower lead group, the grower lead change thing happened, and I thought, well, I might as well jump on this bandwagon and see if there's a few guys in the area that are interested, and there was a bit of support. So we So I initiated the process to get the group going, and we're probably a little bit big according to your criteria. I think we've got sort of 17 or 18 people who've got their names on the list, and we're spread right through the region from southern Manawatu right over to Wanganui. So there's a good range in farming types, good range in soil types, and quite a range actually in climate for the group. So it's who we are, kind of.
Yeah. So was it related to regional challenges? Is it particularly soil type or something that was the challenge for you, and that's why you were struggling to be able to get the system to work really well?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I've seen how the Hawke's Bay can get strip till and no till working really well, and it seems like the Waikato maize growers are, there's a good group of them who are moving down a no till pathway, and I kept thinking, well, why can't we do it here? And I know the accepted wisdom is we're just too wet. Our clay soils are too hard to work with, and we have to plough them. That's the sort of, accepted wisdom. And I'm keep thinking, well, in the United States they have every different type of soil. We hear stories of, and I keep thinking, well, surely there's a way we've got to do it. So essentially, Alison, it's been wet springs and a lot of clay type soils, which make it hard to get a no-till system going at a timely to be able to get crops into the ground sort of in a timely fashion.
Yeah. So obviously, what are the benefits that you're wanting to try and achieve from sort of moving to a no-till system? What is it that you really want to have improved on your farm if you can get this up and running?
I guess from initially when I first started looking at no-till, which was a couple of decades ago, it was about cost. I thought I could reduce my tractor hours and not burn so much diesel, and reduce the time someone was sitting in a tractor cab establishing. And that is still a big advantage if you can make it work. I guess now, having learned a lot more about soils and soil structure, and especially our soils, which are on our property, which are alluvial and recent river silts, they just don't handle being ploughed and power harrowed year in, year out. They just turn into dust. And the more I'm learning, I'm thinking we want to preserve or enhance our soils rather than beat them up. And so that's I think a benefit which may take some time for some of the heavier soils to actually show that advantage, but I'm sure it's there.
Yeah. And obviously, anything that you do to improve the quality of your soil over time is going to sort of add value, as in financial value, to your farm anyway. So it's a bit of a win-win, looking at it from an environmental point of view, but also the profitability long term.
Yeah, we couldn't sustain our rotation intensity if we continued to plough. We'd have to have a bigger spill back in pasture to be able to rehabilitate soils before we beat them up again. And so,
don't use the term "beat up." Come on, cultivate. Yeah, well, yeah. So the other factor which has become obvious over the last couple of years is the whole climate change, the issues with climate change, and while to be able to minimise the emissions of N2O gas and carbon dioxide, minimising tillage is going to be something that can help to some extent. Yeah, absolutely. So you've been up and running, obviously, for a year now. What are the things that the group have been doing?
Well, it was a bit of a patchy start, but we've got a WhatsApp group which we sort of use to communicate on an informal basis with, and we started pretty informally with just doing some field walks around fields which had been either no-tilled or direct drilled during the spring of 2021, and that was useful. And we luckily, one of the group members is David McDonald, who's a area manager for Pioneer, and he was really helpful for identifying the issues that were, making sure that we actually dug some plants up and peeled them back and found the Argentine stem weevil and found the cutworm and looked at how that was affecting the crop. So that was very useful. We did a cereal disease workshop with Joe Drummond and David Burkett, and had them beamed in via video link, and that was useful. It was useful to hear both the scientist point of view on disease, and the fusarium is a big disease for us in the Manawatu on our cereals, and it was good to hear about how David Burkett has incorporated minimum tillage, no tillage, and cover crops into his system. So that was good. We did a field visit to Far and Pioneer have got a cover cropping or establishing winter cover crops into maize trials going, and we had a look at the outcomes of one of those trial paddocks. And we've done a visual soil assessment workshop with Graham Shepherd. So that was, and last night was our we did a session with Chris Pello, the no-till maize grower from the Waikato, who came in by video link, and he gave us a presentation, and we had a good chat with him, which was really good. That we had about 9 of us there on the meeting, and it gave everyone a chance to really quiz him about what he was doing and kind of relate it back to the issues and problems that we've got down here, and so that was a good meeting. So that's what we've done today. Yeah.
So, what are you starting to learn? I mean, I guess, you've spoken to a lot of people who've been, using these techniques. They've presumably talked about some of the benefits, some of the challenges. What do you think, the take-home messages for you have been from just the discussions that you've been having so far?
I think one of the things about trying to get a spring-sown cash crop established with no-till is to be very patient to getting the soil conditions right before you start. And there's a lot of pressure, especially for maize growers, for example, to get a crop in by a certain date so they can grow the longest CRM hybrid to get the highest yield. And there's a lot of pressure not to wait. We've got to get it in October. Whereas if we can have some patience and just let the soil kind of improve and warm up and become a little bit more mellow in the spring, and not attack it the minute we see a fine day sort of thing, then I think that's something it's very hard for people to kind of just hold off and just wait till the soil's in good order. I think with maize, it's now been driven home to us that to get good establishment, we've got to get consistent seed placement in the soil, both depth and spacing between plants, and then get good row closure over the trench. That seems to be really essential. In the paddocks that we looked at last year, there was a lot of variability in terms of seed placement and row closure, and that led to a lesser establishment. So the machinery, the equipment becomes important, and it's important to, if you've got all the latest tools on your planter, that gives you a bigger window to be able to plant in, the less kit you've got on your drill in terms of downforce, automatic downforce and row closure type tools, then you have to wait longer, or you've got a more narrow window to get optimum planting conditions. So I think that's and us getting better at doing that's really important as well. And the last thing is probably learning to deal with a changed or increased risk of pests. So Argentine stem weevil, slugs and cutworms. It's not a given that they'll be worse, but they can pose more problems. For example, if you're trying to spray out really late and plant within a day or two with virtually your previous winter crop, if it's grass, still being virtually green, you just increase your Argentine stem weevil pressure. And even though you might have your seed treatment, the amount of little critters there will just be so many that they can overwhelm the defences. So we've got to kind of think it's not just a mere fact of getting a machine into the paddock, that you've got to actually think your system through. So I think that's the other thing is looking at the whole cropping system and and working out where your pressure points are and coming up with a bit of a plan to improve, to give you every chance of success.
Yeah. And actually that last point that you made, it's really important. And it's one that, a lot of people who are not sort of in the farming community, I don't think they understand that when you change one management practice for a particular benefit, like going to, min-till or no-till, that you potentially create a problem elsewhere in the system. And so you always have to understand the dynamics of the whole farm system, because, it's a juggling act, it's balancing, it's working out like what are the benefits of doing this versus what might be the downsides of doing this, and do one outweigh the other. And it's not straightforward and it's not black and white.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The joys of farming, isn't it?
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. So what are you planning to do then this coming year?
Well, I think that the main focus this year will be to establish, hopefully, 6 trial plots where we're planning on bringing down the far 4-row maize planter in mid-October, and we're going to establish, get your guy that drives your tractor and planter to put down hopefully 6 on 6 different paddocks, roughly a hectare trial plot using the no-till planter. And alongside that, obviously, will be the customary cultivation technique that the farmer's using in that paddock. And we're also hoping to get Paul Linklater with his strip till machine to put some strips down of roughly the same area, and the far maize planter will plant both the no-till and the strip till, and that'll be the big focus, to monitor those, see what happens to them, and hopefully get some good kind of background information, how to go about it, which will generate a bit more interest in the technique. So we've got hopefully 6, and that'll depend on the logistics over the when the planter comes down, whether we can do all 6 or weather conditions. And they are from Marton over to Wanganui on a range of soil types. So that will be that'll be really interesting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So that's great. I mean, I think that, the proof of the pudding will be in, sort of what you see this coming year. I mean, you sounded a little bit skeptical about growers leading change, I think, when you first started. So, I mean, has it been worth putting the time and effort into being part of this group? And do you have any sort of like suggestions, for other growers that might be thinking about wanting to be part of growers leading change?
Look, I think I think it's one of the better initiatives that FAR has come up with. I've always thought FAR has been one of the best levy groups and it's been a model for some of the other sectors, I think, since it started. So I'm a big supporter of FAR, and I think this has been it's kind of like a supercharged discussion group, and I've run discussion groups way back in the past, and having some funding and a facilitator has meant that the members can really just participate and not have to be too worried about all the logistics and making things happen. So it's been great having a facilitator who, for example, last night he set up the room and got all the technical stuff done so we could actually have a video link, and it meant really all we had to do was turn up and enjoy and get some information. So that's been really good to have the facilitator, and it's been quite a focal thing for. It's brought some focus to growers in the district, and I think one of the side benefits is just the informal chatter between the members, and that's really useful. And you swap information and it's social contact as well, which is good. So I would recommend anyone who has in any growing area, if they've got a few people, if they've got a particular issue or interest that they want to pursue, and they find that there's a couple of other people thinking along the same lines, and you get together and start talking about it, and you go, well, I'm sure there'd then be 8 or 9 other people who would be interested in the same issue. So yeah, I would recommend it wholeheartedly. Yeah.
Great, thanks very much. Hey, we should get you on our electioneering campaign for the referendum next year, David. We'll get you back to do a series of podcasts. Anyway, thank you very much, David. That was great. And listeners, have a great day on the farm.
Thanks for tuning in to Cut the Crop, presented to you by FAR. If you'd like to know more about any of the topics discussed or have any suggestions for future topics, go to www.cutthecrop.co.nz.